is now 11 o'clock, and I will call this City of Lacey Transportation Committee meeting to order Tuesday, April 4th. Can I get a motion for this agenda?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the agenda as posted.
I will second that, and it looks like we have approved our one-item agenda for speed limit modifications. Looks like our Martin Hoppy, our transportation manager, will be presenting. I will. It's all you. Good.
This agenda was originally started when we annexed the Marvin Road section. And after that, I found out I wrote it up, and then we were getting ready to annex the Kenwood and Senior Center, Community Center area. And so we started doing a whole bunch of speed limit changes because we don't do them about every 2-3 years.
Okay.
So let me share my screen. So today we're having a whole bunch of speed limit changes throughout the city. So the first one was the Marvin Road. Keep bringing the name up. We always call it the RAC annexation. So still annexation. So basically the city limits used to be right here about at Les Schwab. So we picked up a chunk of Marvin Road, and then we picked up this section of Stillicum Road. So currently the speed limit the county had there was 35 miles an hour, and we're recommending that we just keep it there at 35. The Lake Lois annexation, we picked up a section right about here at the auto zone, and then a portion of Kenwood here. Okay. Currently, our section of Pacific Avenue was always 35, and the county has a 40-mile-an-hour speed limit. So we're recommending just extending our 35-mile-an-hour speed limit. Okay. And this is currently put at 35 miles an hour, and we'll just leave it that way.
We're gonna leave that. Okay, sure. I for some reason I thought you were gonna want to drop it to 25, being a residential city street. So
well, the county section, I have called the county, and they have no interest in changing their speed limits.
okay.
So that was kind of a premise on that too.
So an amicable solution is leave it as is.
Yeah.
There's 35 at north half of the county.
And we're trying to get more to a 35 mile an hour for consistency throughout the city. So that's when sections, we looked at Martin Way used to be 40 miles an hour.
Wait, quick question on that Kenwood 35. That is also a school bus route, is it not?
I'm sure it is. It has to be.
And when school buses are present, are we at a different speed limit, or when kids are, do we have, you know how sometimes you have the sign that says, you know, when school,
Right. 20 miles an hour when children are present.
Yeah.
I think most of ours are flashing beacons. So when flashing, usually the only one time we don't put the flashing beacons in, if the speed limit already in the neighborhood is 25 miles an hour.
Sure.
And that's generally though in proximity to school locations, not necessarily the bus route.
Right. Well, it has to be the way the RCWs are written. It has to be a school zone. It has to have a crosswalk. So it has to be within 300 feet of the marked crosswalk.
Okay.
It's the only time you have 20-mile-an-hour speed zones.
Got it. Okay.
So back to Martin Way and Britton Parkway. Currently, both are set at 40 miles an hour, and we're recommending that they go down to 35 miles an hour.
On Britain?
On Britton. Right now, Britton, right about here, it's 350 feet east of Carpenter Road. It's 35 miles an hour from this small section, and then turns to 40 for the rest of it. So we're just recommending we keep it all at 35 miles an hour.
I mean, don't we have additional high density residential units going in on Britain? Am I remembering that right, Rick?
There's it's still in the application stage or pre-sub stage, but north of Britton Parkway on the west end across from Miles Sand and Gravel, there's a parcel that's been looked at for additional multifamily in there.
I mean, it just feels like as we put more people, more housing on a street, it shouldn't feel like a highway, you know? And I don't know if that aligns with actual Princeton city policy, but I'd be supportive of dropping it down at least to 35.
People really do move on that road.
Yeah, when we're at 40 miles an hour, I think the only thing that was there was Cabela's.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, why not? It's an empty tree-lined road. Go as fast as you want. That's also not official city policy, I know. But now that there's a lot of people that live on that road, I think we should change.
Right. And the other one is currently 6th Avenue to 8th Avenue is 25 miles an hour.
Mhm.
And so what we're recommending is with the extension complete that we change all of College Street to 35 miles an hour.
That's a good idea. Britton Parkway, on the other hand, it feels like a highway. Yeah, and
Once it gets a little more congested, I think you'll see speeds drop.
I know the roundabouts do a good job of dropping the speed a little bit. And there is gonna be an additional roundabout at Carpenter and Britton.
Yes,
That might help a little.
What's the timeline on that again, Martin?
I'm hoping to get it out to add early or late this year, early next year. We only have one more piece of property to purchase. We already purchased all the rest of them. So once that's set up, we try to get it to bid in the winter. It usually gives the best bids.
Would that put it complete in mid 24 or further out?
Yeah, end of summer, 24. That's our goal. Same with College Street. I think we could meet that too. So that's all of our recommended changes. Be happy to answer any questions.
The Martin Way East portion that stays at 40.
No, all of our section is going to be at 35.
Okay, that goes to 35.
The county's portion is 40 right now.
Okay, so 35. So is it 35 to 40 to 35 and then 40? 35, 40, 35, 40?
And
And then
Past
50.
Deutero. Is this something that would be addressed by the Martin Way study that we're doing, like along with a consistent design theme for development and what we do with the streets? Are we going to talk about consistent speed limits?
I think that'll have something to do with it. Both the county and Lacey did get what they call the Safe Streets for All grant. And that is something that we will need to address. And we're just getting ahead of it a little bit since we had to adopt some speed limits anyway.
Yeah. What would happen if we left Martin Way at 40? Would that be harmful in any way? Can we?
People who bicycle on that road would feel less safe.
Yeah, that's right. There's bicycles, lanes on that road.
Not a lot of them. Not a lot of people bike on that road because it doesn't feel very safe. I think reducing the speed on that road might make it a little bit more inviting for people who aren't in a car.
A little more walkable, a little more bikeable.
Yeah.
Well, that's one thing that if I put a sign up and people actually paid attention to it, my life would be a lot easier.
Me too. I mean, it's a start, right? Posting the speed limit at five miles less fast is a start.
And this is one of the side effects of annexation.
Yep.
Is
Yeah.
we get city speed limits. Carpenter right now is all 35 or is it still 40 in some sections?
All 35.
All 35.
Go zoom out on this. So
There we go.
basically, everything that's in green is 35 miles an hour. The blue. Oh, that's interesting. The blue's a different color on this one than it is on the actual document. Unless it changed it. Those are 30 miles an hour. All the blacks are 25 miles an hour. So really the only thing we got is 45th and Meridian that have a higher speed limit.
County roads.
Yeah, it acts like a county road. It's very rural, no driveways on it, very few accidents on it.
Do we see a lot of accidents on Britton Parkway?
Not really. I mean, the volume isn't there yet.
Is that, did what we were seeing happen change when we reduced the on-street parking practices on Britain? People used to park their cars along Britain, and then we said you
Right.
can't do that because we need to be able to turn buses and fire engines around.
Yeah, I remember last year, I was contacted by an attorney, at that intersection. There was a really weird collision. Each driver was saying that it was the other person's fault, and they were trying to get me involved in it, and I couldn't tell.
So we've had one incident there in a couple of years.
A lot of it has to do with not having a lot of turning movements yet, because as that areas develop out, both the residential piece that was spoken to earlier, but also the area between Gateway and Marvin Road, as those commercial properties build out,
Mhm.
we're gonna have more intersections, and that will also slow down some
That'll
of
slow
that
things
traffic.
down.
But also,
Yeah.
it's one of the reasons why you don't have the conflicts, you don't have the turning movements, which is typically what is, spikes on.
The collision I was talking about, somebody was trying to make a U-turn in one of the median openings and
Sure.
turn in front of another car.
Okay, so what do you need from us?
Motion to send it to council. We talked to Dave Schneider this morning, and we're gonna shoot for April 20th council meeting.
Yeah, so this will go forward to council with a resolution to adopt a new speed limits, to amend the speed limits and by council action.
So currently on Marvin, as you head north and you cross over Britton Parkway, which turns into Willamette, that is currently 40?
Everything's 35.
That's currently 35.
Correct.
And that's one of the guides too, and not only with annexation, but trying to make sure we have consistency of speed limits throughout the city, both based off of road design and its commonality. And as you see on the map, as Martin showed, most of the streets in the city limits are 35. So it's a
Yeah.
consistent approach, so drivers are aware. And then, like, say with Kenwood, maintaining that 30. You say you maintain that as 35?
Yeah.
It's just as it was today.
Okay, so I'll be 100% honest. I'm not really in favor of changing Britton Parkway from 35 to 40, from 40 to 35. But that's because I have my own biases. And let's look past I'm looking past those and saying, let's move this on to the council. And I would love to see Martin Way be a consistent something, and if we're trying to move towards something like what Pacific Highway is from, Federal Way through Des Moines into Tukwila, and they have their consistency that's, they've worked very hard on over decades to create in their uniform look and their uniform speed and so on and so forth. If we're trying to go with something like that, we are going to have to come together with the county and agree on a speed in addition to other items. And at this point,
And I think with their grant, when they do the Safe Streets report, that's something that they need to talk about anyway in the report. So I'll keep working with them.
Yeah.
We're each gonna be on each other's
Because if we're-
technical committee.
if we are going to have this corridor that goes from Olympia through Thurston County, through Lacey twice, and then through Thurston County again down to the freeway, we'll want to agree on something, because at this point we're at 35, 40, and 50. Is that right?
Yes.
35, 40, 35.
40, 35, 40, 35.
Yeah,
There's
that's-
a full section of
yeah.
40 before it goes down the hill at 50.
And then-
Right, at 25 down the hill. Or is it,
50 down.
is it, no, not that hill, the hill that goes down into Olympia.
It's 35 in Olympia, isn't it?
It's 35 in Olympia. I think somewhere around Fourth and State, they probably change it a little bit. I don't
Drops down again.
I don't go to Olympia much.
But again, as Martin mentioned, this Safe Streets study is going to have some help in showing consistency, the need for consistency along that corridor, as well as the Martin Way Corridor project. And those are conversations too that will help the county understand that connectivity of that urban corridor,
Mhm.
right? Consistency.
In the county's defense, they have a very complicated way of doing their speed limits. And it takes a lot of work on their part.
Yeah,
Is
Yeah.
that in their defense? Why is their method complicated?
right.
Because they don't want arbitrary speed limits, so they wrote a section that you have to follow these certain standards and it has to meet certain criteria to change their speed limit.
Right, it's a little more difficult to change out a speed limit than just
Just
saying, hey,
asking.
send it over to council and let them agree. Okay, so aside from my own bias, I like the 40 miles an hour on Britton Parkway. I use Britton Parkway. But with development on the way, I understand the concern. I really do. And so I would move that we forward these actions to the full council.
Second,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Okay, so be it. And with that, does anybody have anything else for this committee? Okay, seeing nothing further, then I will call this meeting adjourned and maybe we even made some kind of a record. Thank you all for